Blog Talk Radio.
Well, here we go. It's that time again. If it's Wednesday, hump day, it's the True North podcast hosted by a brother, a mentor, a friend, Bill North, live from Seattle. Yours truly playing a little co-host with them and producing it, Mark Mancini in Los Angeles. 347-205-9631 will get you to the front of the table. After that, if you miss it, catch the archive version, blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports podcast platforms, wherever you subscribe to podcast, powered now by Mancini Media. So without further ado, more of him, less of me. Let me lay the red carpet down, put the podium in its place, hand off the mic. First of all, Bill, how are you? How can people get a hold of you? And, boy, we're going part two with Lee Lacy.
Yeah, we are. I'm having trouble with my phone. I need to add him on as a call. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can work through the kinks as you're doing that.
Okay, hold on.
Man, oh, man, last week we had Lee Lacy. It was so good we had to bring him back for a second interview because we couldn't get everything in the first interview. So this is going to be a good one. And, man, oh, man, I am
Mark.
so blessed.
Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Lee?
We're here.
This is me.
Yeah. Okay, I'm
There
sorry.
he is.
Yes.
How are you?
How did both of... Oh, I'm doing great.
Well, I will tell you this, Lee. Yeah, I will tell you, you know, the Pirates just broke out their City Connect outfits last night. And, man, oh, man, if they didn't look like the 79 with the black pants, gold tops, and the gold caps, I said to myself, man, Lee Lacy's got to be around here somewhere. I know Willie Stargell, God rest his soul, Dave Parker. These look like the 79 Pirates, my friend.
Yeah, I've seen that, man, and they played like the 79 Pirates as well. The Lumber Company. That was the name the sergeant gave us. We
the Lumber Company.
Yeah.
They get banged, boy.
Yeah, man.
And then Bill, after I got done watching that a little, I proceeded to see the Yankees in Oakland, and I thought to myself, man, they got to save the A's. The signs were out. They might have had 27,000. I don't know. But they pulled a shocker. They beat the Yankees 2-1 last night. So they're trying to save their souls in Oakland, which I hope they can. I don't want to see them go to Vegas.
I don't want to see them go either. What they should do is if they do move, they should take the team from Colorado and put it in Oakland. You know, Mile High, it's a tough place to play, man. All I hear about is complaints. About the Mile High Stadium, man. It's very difficult to play. The guys come out of there, man, and they're winded. It takes them a couple of days to get their oxygen back into their lungs and breathe in normally. And, you know, and you guys go there and play, man, and they can't wait to get out of there, man. I just hate to see
you know, I heard,
Oakland, man.
Right. I heard, you know, through the grapevine, some of the reports Shohei Ohtani can get could be up to about $700 million for 10 years. What the heck would you guys get if you were playing this game today? Because you both can flat out hit.
It's unbelievable the money that's out there, and you know he truly deserves it. But let me just comment on that. Ohtani is not the first player that was able to pitch and hit for power. Dave Winfield, if you ever go back and look at the history of Dave Winfield was a Class A pitcher, was a great pitcher coming out of Minnesota, and he also was a power hitter. But Dave Winfield was a great pitcher, and it was known throughout the league. And then they said, well, you got to pick one. You either got to be a pitcher or you got to be a power hitter. And he decided to be a power hitter. But Dave Winfield, when I was because we came along right about the same time, he was also a power pitcher, man, throwing in the high 90s and the low 100s, man. And they said, well, you can't hit.
Yeah. I know this much about him. He got drafted in all three sports. And
yes,
one of the best athletes I ever saw.
Wasn't he amazing when he came into the league, man, and had a great arm, and he never played one minor league game. He went straight to the major leagues, man.
Yeah, he was a Chicago boy, too. And he could run like a deer.
Yes.
I got a question.
Well, yeah. Unbelievable.
Mr. Lacy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to talk about Jennifer.
Oh, wow. I was on the phone with her the other day. She'll be here next week, probably before this week's out, because she's going to spend 4th of July with me.
Isn't that something? Tell me about your daughter and Agora High and Oregon State and the WNBA. And she had a long career up there, too.
Yeah, Pepperdine. Jennifer was in the 9th grade. Of course, Agora High goes 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And Suzanne, the young lady who I was married to, she was like, well, Jennifer is going to be a cheerleader. And I was like, wow, I wish she would play a sport, because Jennifer played basketball with me at this Catholic church called St. Mel's, which is right there at Lake Lindero in Westlake Village. And she used to post me up, man, and hack me. And she was
taller than you.
She was outstanding, man. And Suzanne didn't want her to play, but she had been playing basketball with me ever since she was 10 years old, because Jennifer was always tall for her size. So Jennifer and I used to play every day. She loved it. So when she went to Agora High, Suzanne wanted her to be a cheerleader. Oh, I don't want my daughter playing no sports. She's too feminine and all this. So she didn't play. But it was a guy that was the head basketball coach there. And he's seen her, and he says, wow, as quick as your feet are, you should play a sport, And she says, oh, my daddy played a sport. My daddy is Lee Lacy. Yeah. She tried out for the team, and she made the team, man. And the rest is history. Her numbers retired at Agora High, and she's in Agora Hall of Fame.
I'm talking about she was 6'3".
Yeah, well, she's 6'2". She's my identical height, man.
Isn't that something? And she was taking you to the hole.
She was taking me to the hole, man, and was strong at 11, 12 years old. She can play, man.
Yeah. I got a granddaughter like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's
funny? I got one other thing, too.
Yeah.
You were on the field.
Bill.
Tell me about Hank in 715, partner.
Well, it was, I remember we went into L.A., and back then, man, we had a private jet. The Dodgers had a jet called a Whisper. And we were all on there, and the whole conversation, the whole time flying into Atlanta was about Hank Aaron. And Walter Austin, he was the manager at the time. We had Preston Gomez and Danny Ozark and Jim Gilliam. Those were our coaches. And we had another guy by the name of Monty Basco. He was the infield instructor.
I remember Monty. Those were our coaches, too, now.
Yeah.
Except we had Tommy.
Yes. So before we land, they were briefing everyone about all the different negativity was surrounding that 714, because he hit 714 on the 4th, and then he hit 715 on the 8th. But it was against the Dodgers and
Al Downing.
Al Downing. So we was briefed about all the controversy surrounding this home run, because it was in the South. And they were talking about how people were threatening his life and how there was going to be security, and it was going to be on the roof of the stadium there, Turner Field there, trying to make sure there was no snipers and there was no tragedy that day.
Wow.
Trying to make it a good day. So when I went into the clubhouse that day in 74, it was like so many police officers in there. It was very frightening because everyone was anticipating something was going to happen. And I was like, wow, I was like, man, when I was coming up as a kid, I was like, maybe one day, we won't have this controversy about race. but it was just so intense in the clubhouse. So the game started, and Hank hit the home run, and I remember Bill Buckner was in left field, and he went over the fence and tried to catch the ball.
Right.
You remember that?
Yeah.
It was just an exciting day, but all the hatred that followed it was just so negative, and it was just so surprising to me because all I ever wanted to do was play baseball and have a good time at playing the sport that I love. So it was a lot of challenges from the 4th all the way up to the 8th when
the hate mail.
And the hate mail, man. It was just ridiculous, because I remember when I first came to the major leagues in 1972, and I remember going in the clubhouse and first thing, because Frank Robinson he had been traded for the Dodgers. He was the right fielder, and I was going to be playing second base. All the controversy in the clubhouse about, oh yeah, if you're African American, you can't be a third base coach, you can't be a bench coach, and we've never had a manager. And I was like, who cares, man? I just was so excited about playing baseball and being in the big leagues. And that's what was on the table, man, when I got there. It was really sad because I was like, who cares, I said 10 or 15 years from now, we'll all be getting along and we'll just be one big happy family.
Wow. And I want to talk about
2023.
Yeah. Bill, you guys both played, for, Lasorda, and but there was a guy you played for, Lee, and, unbelievable, unwavering confidence, infectious optimism. Chuck Tanner. Boy, you'd probably be able to cut that with a knife. Yeah. And when you look at Chuck Tanner, Tanner and Lasorda, I don't know. I mean, they were both good, but if you put a gun in my hand and said who would I play for, I'd probably want to play. Being Italian, Lasorda would be there, but Chuck Tanner, just with that personality and that drive, I don't know, man. I love that guy just as well.
Hey, man. Chuck Tanner go ahead. Yeah.
He was one of a kind, man.
I had him, too, in Oakland, and I was rolling as far as performance and that, and he told the press that I was one of the best offensive forces in the league as far as leading a team and leading off. And I know I looked around and I saw a bunch of players and that, but Chuck Tanner was a good man, and he was and the enthusiasm, like you mentioned, Lee, the enthusiasm was off the hook. I want to ask you about one other guy, though. And he just passed away. And I know he had influence on you, and he had influence on me also. His name is Tommy Davis.
Tommy Davis was a generational player. Tommy Davis was the type of player that came along once every 100 years with his production at the plate. He's the only Dodger to ever win 2 batting titles, and everyone seemed to have forgotten about his talent and how skilled he was on defense and offense, and what a terrific hitter all around, average and power. And if it wasn't for that injury at home plate, he would have probably been one of the greatest hitters to have ever played the game. No, I've never seen him play. This is just stories and what I've read and what I've seen, because I visited him quite a bit at his home at Rancho Cucamonga. We became real close, so I was there all the time. I was even there prior to the days of him leaving and going to the rest home in Arizona. And then his wife followed him into Arizona, and he had a daughter there in Arizona, so I knew his whole family. Then his wife moved there, and then after his wife moved there, Tommy passed away, and then right after that, she had a stroke, and she passed away. But Tommy was in a great home there in Rancho Cucamonga, and I was going to visit him just before she said, well, you know, we're moving, and he didn't want to go, man. He didn't want to go. And, you know, of course, you know, she put him in a rest home that specialized in cardiovascular and heart disease, because that's what he had, and he had a heart surgery. So once he got there and he was in the rest home, man, I had some friends of mine who went there. Matter of fact, my agent, his name is Jack DeLance, and Jack said when he went and seen Tommy, he was miserable, man, because he was there in the rest home and he didn't want to be there. And he didn't do it. Yeah. You know, but Tommy Davis was a generational player. You only see him player like him come along once every 100 years. And this is from guys like Jim Gilliam. I got a chance to talk to Duke Snyder, was still around the stadium at the time. Pee Wee Reese was still around the stadium at the time. And, of course, Joe Black was still alive. Don Newman. Right. And all talked about Tommy Davis, man. If he never had gotten that injury, how great of a hitter Tommy Davis was. But he had already set record 2 batting titles, man.
156 RBIs, buddy. 156 RBIs.
Yes. When I talk about speed, we're going to go back to Billy and Chuck Tanner in Oakland. See, Billy was a Ricky Henderson prior to Ricky Henderson.
Yeah,
that's
Ricky
how
Henderson
bad Bill North was on the bases, man. He was unstoppable. Bill North was unstoppable, man. But back in those days, you know, the press was so strung out on superstars. If you were African American, they wanted you to hit for power and do all these other things. But Bill North was a Ricky Henderson of my generation, and he was under Chuck Tanner. Wow. And Chuck Tanner has a lot to do with me stealing. I think, Billy, you had right at 500 stolen bases or right at 400?
No, I had about 400. Yeah. But I was in the American League, see, and it was a different thing there. I stole the most bases in 76 since Ty Cobb in 1950.
Absolutely.
And that's how much we ran. I said, shoot, I never stole home. And I had to steal third base at 95% because once I got in the scoring position, I had Joe Rudy, Campaneris, and Reggie Jackson and Sal Badno behind me, and I was already in scoring position. So, you know, but Ricky Henderson, I always maintained I stole them 75 bases, and then a guy named Henderson came along.
Yeah. Well, you know, you guys are talking about batting, and I couldn't help but, you know, since 1900, the Pittsburgh Pirates have won 25 batting titles. The Dodgers have won, I think, 7. And I don't know, and you played for both those teams, Lee. The last time the Dodgers had consecutive, I think it was Tommy Davis in the 60s where he won some batting titles, but is that the mantra? Yeah. Is that the mantra in Pittsburgh when they bring somebody aboard? You got to be able to hit because, man, oh man, at 25 batting titles in Pittsburgh, that must lead the pack.
How many did Hornsby have?
What made us very unique during the era that I played in, which was right after Roberto Clemente, but then I played during Stargell era, and then I also played during Dave Parker, and a lot of us gone already, but they had great leadership throughout the organization, and they taught hitting. It was the first time I've ever had anyone sit down with me and go over all the basic fundamentals of what I should do as a hitter. And I remember talking to Stargell, and Stargell said, you always start out with your shoulders and feet perpendicular. You always try to hit the ball left center, right center.
Wow.
You hit the off-speed pitches. It's going to help you to hit the breaking ball, and then start to say, more importantly, Lee, it's going to help you to utilize the whole field. That was the first time I ever heard that, and it was in 1979 when I became a Pirate. Willie Stargell came over, and he talked to me about how to approach the game as a hitter. And this is something that I'm assuming, like what you said about the batting titles, I never knew that.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that it was taught throughout the organization. Because Al Oliver, Bob Johnson, Rennie Stennett,
Richie Hebner.
Cash.
Oh, Dave Cash, man.
Yeah.
Vic Davalino.
Yeah.
Manny Sanguin.
Manny Sanguin.
And then, of course, there was the great one.
Dave Parker, Willie Stargell, Roberto Clemente.
Bill Madlock.
The greatest player I ever saw go on the field until I looked at Ken Griffey Jr.'s body of work, and I changed. He's the greatest player I ever saw.
Wow.
Let me ask you something. You're looking at Mookie Betts today, but I would beg to differ. If I had a healthy Eric Davis, I'm taking Eric Davis over Mookie Betts. I don't know how you guys feel on this, but I think Eric Davis, if he wasn't injured, would have probably been one of the best ever, too.
That was a tough one, Mark, because
Eric Davis was phenomenal.
ED could play. I'm talking about another wonderful person. Yeah. Oh, that's a blast from the past, Mark.
Yeah. I kind of looked at Eric Davis and I said, my God, this guy could have been one of the best if he didn't get injured. But I know with, I wanted to go right quick back to the Lee, about your daughter. I got to cover the WNBA for years, and I loved covering it. And people go, you're covering the WNBA? I said, let me tell you something. If it came down to a golf tournament of the WNBA, I'm covering a WNBA game, getting to meet the Diana Taurasi's, the Sue Birds, the Becky Hammonds. Unbelievable, and it's only getting stronger in the WNBA with the women just playing basketball.
Yeah, I followed him for 16 years myself. I followed my daughter's career. And it was some phenomenal talent, man, that I never even imagined. And I was like, where did they come from? I seen girls that were 6'4", 6'5", can play. I'm like, why no one ever knew about this talent, man? It was phenomenal.
We were in the era where team sports for women was just coming along.
Yeah, that is true.
And one of the greatest things that I experienced was my daughter. She was an athlete, but she liked to shop too. And now she's a financial. She's a fashion stylist in L.A. dressing Kevin Hart.
Wow.
And I say, man, she got the perfect job shopping with other people's money. Now she ain't shopping with mine. But she played she was an all-state volleyball player. And what I feel about that is watching women be able to participate in team sports is one of the greatest things that ever happened because of the sociology of it, where you have to interact with a team.
Yeah.
And the fact that, for a long time, and interacting and being in the locker room with your teammates is one of the most outstanding dynamics an individual can ever participate. That locker room, nobody's running rampant in the locker room, okay? It controls itself, and I was just so glad to be able to experience with my daughter, but your daughter on a higher level, being able to participate in that camaraderie and that team dynamics that men always kind of control.
Yeah, Jennifer was very blessed. She had a guy by the name of Allie Otis, Agoura High School, And then she also played in what they have a Nike League here in Southern California. They were very interested in Jennifer. So she played in the Nike League, and she got a lot of experience there. But she was around a lot of great coaches. And then she went to a camp there every year where Don Drysdale White, who's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I can't
played
think
at UCLA.
Yeah. And
her name is Jason.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I'm going to put you both on the spot here. Bill, what was the most entertaining batting practice show? The era where you played with the Oakland A's in the 70s? Or I've seen a few of Lee Lacy's in the 79 season when they drove some completely up, halfway up the bleachers in some of these stadiums. Lee, you can state your case. The 79 Pirates during batting practice or the Oakland A's, Bill, with your 72, 73, 74 squads.
Yes. The lumber, I'm not even going to say Pirates. I'm going to call them the Lumber Company because it speaks volume about the talent that we had. And I haven't even mentioned a guy by the name of Bill Madlock, who should be in the Hall of Fame. And he's been totally on board. And he's living in Las Vegas. And, you know, he's lost his wife. He's lost his son. And Bill Madlock was a phenomenal hitter, man. And, you know, he didn't have a lot of power. But then during batting practice, you just seen how precise his swing was. I utilized the whole thing.
Isn't that something?
You know, yeah, and then because then we had Big Dave Parker over there, and then we had Willie Stargell, and then we had Manny Sanguin. The only guy I've ever watched take batting practice would take a swing and turn completely around and land back in the same spot he started when he started to take a swing.
I remember that. He kind of jumped back into the same place.
Yeah, he was and turned all the way around, man, and back in the same spot.
Bill Robinson was another one you guys had.
Who?
Bill Robinson can jack that ball out too, man. Unbelievable power he had.
He was a great ball player.
Let me talk about who I think, because you know what?
Billy, you played
Oakland A's were an efficient ball club.
Yeah.
And we played in that canyon. We used to call it the mausoleum and that. But the guys that you were talking about in Pittsburgh, we were no comparison as far as hitting to them. I'm going to tell you.
What I really like about the team that you were on, and I know I'm interrupting you, I have to say this, there was nothing but Hall of Famers there, man. They played well on both sides of the ball. Very well. Sal Bando, Joe Rudy, Campaneris, you had Dick Green, and you had the guy behind the plate who Pete Rose ran over. I can't think of his name.
Ray Fosse. Yeah.
He was
Ray Fosse.
Very underrated. And then, of course, you had Reggie Jackson out there, man, hitting balls way up in the rafters. So you guys had a team full of Hall of Famers. The Pirates, we had a platoon system because we had a lot of offense. But you guys played well, Billy, on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. And we're fundamentally sound.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man.
We didn't make mistakes.
I'm from Oakland.
Yeah.
So I used to go out there with my father. I had an Uncle Hiawatha, who was a left-handed pitcher in the Negro Leagues. I had an Uncle Leroy who played first base. My dad played second base. I had an Uncle Walter who was a catcher, and my Uncle Jesse played third base. And they all was from East Texas, and they played with Charlie. But Hiawatha, Leroy, and my father.
Unbelievable.
Was in Oakland.
You know what? We're down.
They lived in
we got to bring him back a third one, man. We can't even get everything in on these 30-minute shows. Bill, I just love to have Lee Lacy share these things, and people are talking about it, and it's just amazing. And I will tell you this as we wind this down to 40 seconds. I don't want to disrespect the 60s. I don't want to disrespect the 90s and 2000s and anything like that, but I will tell you, I'll match the 70s of baseball up with anything because nobody had 8-9 teams battling it out, knocking each other in championships like the 70s. And boy, yep, I will go to my grave on that one.
Greatest players to ever play the game.
Sure was,
yep.
Man. You know,
and they keep bringing up the 60s and all these other ones, but I'm going, the teams, they didn't have 8-9 teams that were knocking each other off like they had in the 70s.
Yeah, you know what? One player we're not mentioning, man, and he was one of the greatest players that I ever seen. And I was in the minor league when he was with the Dodgers, and I used to run over and I used to see him play. And my father and them loved him, man. Was Richie Allen, man.
Gosh.
Dick Allen, man. He had a big bat, like 37 inches, 37.
No, 40-some ounces.
Was it 40?
And he would dip it. And he would dip it and come back.
He started it, and he just swung that sucker right on the round as that pitcher was coming. And, you know, he never got in the Hall of Fame, man. I think last year he died, man. And he never got in. He never got in because you got these people in the Hall of Fame saying, oh, well, you know, he used to have a drink before he would go to the ballpark. Oh, he used to do this. And he would show up late. But Dick Allen, man, he never, ever got the credit. One of the most feared hitters to ever play the game. It was some great talent, man.
And I know another guy, and we're, Lee May, We're running out of time.
Come back.
But we got to get him. We got to open the door next week for another roundup, round 3. I mean, things roll in threes here, Bill. But I will tell you this as we wind it down. And the one guy that I think belongs in the Hall, I know he won't get in there, but he single-handedly changed baseball too. Barry Bonds, I love dearly, and I know that. I love Barry Bonds. And
he was a hitter. He was a hitter before. He was a great hitter his whole career. Beyond,
he was a great hitter
unbelievable.
He was an All-American in college.
Arizona State, great guy to talk to. And man, oh man, it was just amazing. Bill, as we take this thing next week, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, man.
You can reach me at Bill Norte 15 BILLNORTE 15 at gmail.com. Thank you.
And I will tell you next week when we do talk, I want to know if Lee Lacy's going with you on that Dusty Baker staff that'll be in Seattle for the All-Star game, and you guys have been warming up yet?
No.
Have they voted you guys in? Because I've been trying to stuff the ballot boxes out here.
Yeah. Hey, remember now, my daughter's in the Pepperdine Hall of Fame, and her number is retired at Pepperdine is one of the top 10 schools in the whole world. Pepperdine.
I know this much. She makes you proud.
Oh, man. It was the only father-daughter who ever won a championship. No one ever mentions it.
God bless you. Hey,
look at that.
We have come down to the end of the day. You got to bring Lee back next Wednesday. We'll go part 3 with him. It's just so much fun with all these people listening.
I'm having fun.
True North podcast, hosted by Billy North up there in Seattle. Yours truly, Mark Mancini down here in Los Angeles, alongside Lee Lacy. We'll touch bases with you next week. Catch the archive version on blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports. And, oh, by the way, as I end this show next week, the Pirates are out here for 4. I hope they bring the brooms from Pittsburgh to sweep the Dodgers out. Till then, have a blessed one, and thanks for tuning in.
All right, thanks, guys.